Chapter 325 Peculiarity. Thud. Thud. Lu Jing's and Senior Marshal Brother Wang's corpses were casually tossed to the ground by the ambusher. The corner of Han Li's eye twitched when he saw this. "Since you've come, don't think about leaving. I am still lacking foundation establishment blood sacrifices." The ambusher smiled sinisterly, causing his white teeth to twinkle underneath the moonlight. The ambusher was none other than the Emperor of Yue, who had appeared to be scared stiff just a moment ago. But now, he was no longer that sorry figure that lost himself to fear, but a late Foundation establishment cultivator with magic power fluctuations no weaker than those of the blue-robed man, the Black Fiend schoolmaster. Han Li's expression grew ice-cold in response to the sudden appearance of an opponent with such deep cultivation. Han Li didn't know what technique the Emperor had used a moment ago, but he was able to completely conceal his cultivation from all of the Yellow Maple Valley cultivators. This reminded Han Li of his prior inability to detect magic power from the young prince and Steward Wang. Unlike the previous occasion, Han Li didn't perceive a clear premonition of danger, instilling him with even greater fear and caution. Han Li flicked his finger, causing the white scale shield and the tortoise-shell magic tool to unhurriedly revolve around him. As the Yellow Maple Valley cultivators nervously glanced at the Emperor of Yue and the blue-robed man, they took out their magic tools and closely wound them around their bodies, protecting themselves. Seeing the Yellow Maple Valley cultivators act as if they were facing a great enemy, the Emperor of Yue and the Black Fiend schoolmaster looked at each other and coldly laughed. The Black Fiend schoolmaster suddenly flashed, appearing over 30 meters away next to the sparkling ice pile, which were the fragmented remains of the ice demon. The Black Fiend schoolmaster glanced at the ice pile and casually held out his hand towards it, which caused a blue bead to fly from the ice demon's remains into his hand. At that same moment, the treacherous Emperor of Yue flashed toward the two blood servants that were turned into ash by the Firebird treasure seal. He fiercely slapped the ground, causing a golden and a yellow bead to fly from the ground and toward his hand. "Those are?" When Han Li saw those beads, he drew a connection to the azure bead that was taken from Marshal Brother Wang's corpse. He immediately came to a faint realization on what they were and felt his heart tighten. He truly didn't expect that his objective for coming here would suddenly appear before his eyes. These were certain to be related to the 5 elements blood cores concerning core formation that the young prince had mentioned. However, there were only 4 such beads here. Where could the final one be? At the same time Han Li came to this conclusion, the Emperor of Yue and the Black Fiend schoolmaster beamed with joy, having gathered the beads. Facing towards the sky, the group suddenly broke into laughter. As they continued laughing, they turned their cold gazes toward Han Li and company, revealing an unconcealed desire for murder. Han Li and company couldn't help but slightly pale in response. "Everyone, take to the skies." Thoughts suddenly surged through Han Li's mind before he finally shouted this and summoned his divine wind boat, flying first to the sky. The others were startled at Han Li's shout. But Song Ming and Shui Hong's Dao companion, who held great confidence in him, unconsciously flew to the sky as instructed. However, when Chen Qiaoqian heard Han Li, she hesitated for a moment before dragging Zhang Weiniang along with her to the sky. When the Emperor of Yue and the Black Fiend schoolmaster saw this, their faces flashed with astonishment before sneering in unison. While it was clear they were two completely different people, the smiles they gave Han Li left him with the strange impression that they were one, causing Han Li's heart to tremble. "That boy is quite quick-witted. It seems you'll have to sacrifice your body earlier than expected." "Me? Why not you? Once you take it, it will be irrecoverable." The Emperor of Yue and the blue-clothed man faintly spoke beneath them. Hearing their strange comments, Han Li and company felt a cold chill down their backs. "Junior Marshal Brother Han, what are they talking about?" Song Ming gulped and moved closer to Han Li. Having seen so many fellow sect members die before him, even the battle-obsessed Song Ming was unable to maintain his originally fearless drive. He asked Han Li in order to calm his heart. After all, Han Li gave him a feeling of mystery and slight reliability. When Han Li heard the question, he bitterly smiled in his heart. As he was thinking of what to say, something occurred below them. Han Li's expression vastly changed and he immediately swallowed what he was about to say. Chen Qiaoqian then cried out, drawing Song Ming's fearful gaze to the scene below. He saw the Emperor of Yue stick his hand into the Black Fiend Schoolmaster's chest. The Black Fiend Schoolmaster had held his arms wide and didn't struggle in the slightest. Instead, he wore a smile on his face. The Black Fiend Schoolmaster and the Emperor of Yue each emitted a dazzling bloody light. Through the Emperor of Yue's arm that pierced the Black Fiend Schoolmaster's chest, their bloody lights joined together and the light from the Black Fiend Schoolmaster madly surged into the Emperor of Yue's body. It appeared that the Black Fiend Schoolmaster had taken the initiative to deliver himself to the Emperor of Yue, leaving Song Ming dumbstruck. The Black Fiend Schoolmaster's brilliance grew increasingly weaker and his flesh grew increasingly shriveled. Conversely, the Emperor of Yue's light grew stronger by the moment and even appeared slightly younger. What evil technique is this? Song Ming cried out with shock. Han Li's expression grew incomparably dark and he paid no mind to senior martial brother Song's outburst. Instead, he took a deep breath and suddenly flung his hands outward. No less than 200 fire attribute talismans raced from his hands toward the Emperor of Yue and the Black Fiend Schoolmaster. This talisman barrage, consisting of fire serpents, fireballs, and other such fire attribute techniques, was made up of all the fire attribute talismans that Han Li had on hand. Halfway through, these talismans turned into a heaven-shrouding display of fire attribute techniques, a huge and overbearing wave of fire. This grand display exerted an even greater pressure than that of Lu Jing's Firebird treasure seal. Such a display of over 100 talismans being thrown out was extremely rare in the cultivation world. After all, someone would have to spend hundreds of spirit stones to acquire that many talismans. This mighty display left the group of Yellow Maple Valley cultivators in shock. Even the despondent Zhang Weiniang blankly stared at the scene in surprise. Initially, the Emperor of Yue was also greatly shocked at the scene. But after he saw they were merely low-grade magic techniques, he brushed it off with disdain beneath contempt. He understood that the bloody light protecting his body would leave him completely unscathed from those magic techniques, allowing him to pay attention to the important matter before him. So long as he finished this, killing the opposition would be as easy as throwing out trash. But for an instant, palpitating fear could be seen in the Emperor of Yue's eyes as the flames that filled the sky surged down to submerge him and the Black Fiend Schoolmaster. But as he expected, regardless of how deafening the attack, or how the flames soared, the bloody light surrounding their bodies kept them safe and sound. By then, over half of the Black Fiend Schoolmaster's light had flowed into the Emperor of Yue's body. The Emperor of Yue now appeared about 30 years old, much to his pleasure. When Chen Qiaoqian and the others saw Han Li's attack, they each followed up by sending down their magic tools. After all, it appeared the enemy was using some sort of evil technique and couldn't retaliate. Chen Qiaoqian and the others would naturally want to use this opportunity to beat down the enemy. Just as they launched their magic tools, a blinding white light ruptured from the Emperor of Yue and the blue-robed man, followed by a deafening explosion. The fluctuating, volatile white light had enveloped the two within it. The fearsome amount of spiritual power contained within the white light left the Emperor of Yue with an expression of fright. When Chen Qiaoqian and the others saw this, they were pleasantly surprised and looked to Han Li. This scene must have been the work of their fellow sect member. However, Han Li didn't appear happy in the slightest and instead, appeared solemn and cold. "You are all celebrating far too early. They still aren't dead," Han Li coldly said with an indifferent glance. His words startled the others, causing them to hastily turn their gaze. Underneath the concealment of the resulting smoke and dust, the Emperor of Yue's spiritual qi was still faintly discernible. Although it was still present, his magic power had been greatly decreased. The spirits of the Yellow Maple Valley cultivators shook from what they saw with their spiritual sense, and they commanded their magic tools to spiral around them. Once the Emperor of UA was visible, they would make a joint attack and get revenge for the tragic deaths of their fellow sect members. K. Good. Good. K. I truly made an error in judgment. Who would have thought that your esteemed self was the most troublesome among the group? You actually hid something among the talismans and managed to break through my protective bloodlight. A burst of coughs came from the smoke, but as the Emperor of UA gradually regained a steady voice, his tone became increasingly cold. When the others heard this, their expressions massively changed. Han Li was also overwhelmed with shock. A heavenly lightning seed. I truly did not think that there were Foundation establishment cultivators capable of surviving a heavenly lightning seed. Han Li slowly said under his breath. He then waved his hands and a burst of white light appeared in front of him. Each of the silhouettes gradually became clear as the light faded. The silhouettes were various puppet beasts and soldiers, all aiming at the ground. After seeing the puppets appear, Song Ming and the others fiercely attacked the Emperor of UA without hesitation. However, a burst of red light flashed and severed the magic tool's connections to their owners. Covered in blood and filth, the Emperor of UA walked out of the smoke and rigidly stared at Han Li with bitter resentment.